Good morning. What I want to talk about today is something that I believe is truly phenomenal. And for those of us who are anxiously looking forward to TOC becoming mainstream, to becoming the main way, I think that after you see this, you will agree that this is going to be a foundational piece of TOC becoming the main way worldwide. What we're going to be talking about this morning, we have titled Creating a Public Works Revolution in Japan. And I don't use the word revolution lightly. I mean an absolute transformation of the way that public works projects are handled in the nation of Japan, that is a partnership between the construction industry, the government of Japan, and the people of Japan, who benefit the most from the public works projects. A little bit about myself. Dr. Holt said that I was at Boeing. I actually spent 20 years at Boeing, and I left there in February of 2000 to become a independent TOC consultant. Actually, I was first hired on by a financial software company as a TOC consultant, and I was fortunate to be able to travel to Japan for my first time in April of 2000. Actually, that was the first of I've been there about 20 times now. When I was in Japan in 2000, I think I took 7 trips to Japan in the year 2000, I was fortunate to have many high-level meetings with executive vice presidents and presidents of brand name, household name corporations in Japan. And so I was very interested from the beginning in understanding what the differences between Western culture and Japanese culture were, and how we could bring TOC, which was known only slightly then in Japan, how we could bring TOC to Japan in a very significant way. They had, as I said, scant knowledge of TOC at that time, almost exclusively DBR. I could not find anyone who really understood or even knew what words like critical chain or supply chain management really meant at that time, or distribution and replenishment. And the implementations were very, very, very rare. The only implementations were going on were off in the back corners of some companies. As one example, the CEO of Epson's LCD division was a $2 billion division of Epson in the year 2000, told me that, he said, I know we need TOC. And this was an interesting sign to me that even in the year 2000, here's the top manager of a $2 billion division of a company who had already made the decision in his mind that I need to find out more about TOC. So anyway, as I looked at Japan in the year 2000, I saw an incredible, fertile ground. But I thought, you know, there's something that we really have to understand before we can just, you know, run into Japan and start preaching TOC. And so I began to study the cultural issues, the differences in culture between Western culture and Japanese culture. And one thing that comes out very quickly is that Japan is a consensus society. It is not top-down. So even when the head of the LCD division of Epson said, I know we need TOC, that does not mean that he goes out the next day and says, we are doing TOC. That consensus is needed throughout the company before new initiatives are undertaken. Another thing I discovered was that business in Japan is built on relationships. And this is very, very important. that in the West, business is pretty much cold, and it's done by the numbers, and you know, who you're working with today, you may not be working with tomorrow, and so forth. That's not the case in Japan. In Japan, relationships are built between businesses, and these relationships last for many years. These relationships are established through cooperation and trust. So if you want to be successful in working with Japanese companies, there is a period of time where you build respect between each other, and you cooperate and you build trust between each other. And then things naturally grow. I've seen many American companies barge into Japan very arrogantly, and the Japanese people say, "Thank you for your information, you can go home now." Because business is built on relationships and on trust. And Western companies who ignore this are at a great disadvantage. So it was in my mind that the primary thing that I needed to do was to focus on building relationships. So beginning in 2000, I kept the lines of communication open, and I just kept a very positive, low-key communication going with people that I had contact with in Japan. Now I want to talk about a very common word in Japan, and it's Kaizen. Now, Kaizen is just a word in Japan. In the West, it seems to be set up as some sort of, not a word, but an event. But Kaizen is literally just a word in Japan, and it means improvement. Okay, so you will always hear people talking about Kaizen in Japan. But what they are not talking about is some strict methodology. They are talking about improvement itself. It's an active verb. Improvement is something you do, not something you implement. It's not an event. It's an ongoing process of improvement. Toyota Production System, for example, really is a philosophy, not a methodology. And this is why when many companies go and they try to mimic what Toyota does, they fail miserably. And Toyota will tell you that it is a methodology. It is an internal company environment, an internal culture of improvement. So what that means is that Toyota Production System and Japanese business in general are very open to any kind of improvement. So I have learned that if you suggest something to a Japanese company and it sounds to them like it may be beneficial to them, that it may help them, they say, okay, we'll try it. That how different it is here in the West, where they have, where most companies have their chosen methodology and lock out any other methodologies and say, we're not going to try anything else, we do Lean or we do Six Sigma. That's because they don't have a culture of improvement. They don't understand the word improvement or Kaizen the way that they do in Japan. Another thing that's very important in Japan is case studies. If case studies are published in newspapers such as the Nikkei Business Journal, every business in Japan reads that case study and says, I'll try it. Okay? So by 2003, when I returned to Japan, I found that TOC was growing. It was still almost exclusively DBR. But what I found was that every major company in Japan was studying TOC. Every company had people on staff exclusively looking at TOC. This is every household name company you can think of. See, because they have this different attitude about improvement. If it helps us, we'll try it. In 2003, I was introduced through a mutual friend in Japan to Mr. Satoru Murakami. He's the president of Gold System Consultants. Murakami-san, where are you? Back over here. And he had had a wildly successful DBR implementation at Hitachi Tool Company. He and I began to build this relationship that I was talking about. We became close friends. By a couple of years later, he'd been to my house in Seattle. I'd been to his house in Tokyo. I was very. It was slow, but it was relationship building. But I knew this was the right thing to do in order to really open up wide lanes of communication. Mr. Murakami then, as our relationship grew, invited me to do a 3-day presentation on TOC in Japan, in Tokyo. So I went over there. It was a 3-day overview of all the applications of TOC. And when I was there, I was introduced to Yuji Kishira. Now, Mr. Kishira was the COO of a very successful software company in Japan called Being Corporation. And Being Corporation served, to a very large extent, they had several software products, but their flagship product served the Japanese public works construction industry. And I really say a revolution is born because when we met, that really started the ball rolling. At the time, I don't believe you had ever heard of critical chain at that time. And I remember him approaching me after I taught a day and a half on critical chain, and he said, "This is very important to me." Why was it important to him? Well, he had a dilemma as COO of this software company, newly hired COO. His dilemma was that his flagship product, which was a cost estimation software for public works projects, had completely saturated the market. Virtually every public works company in Japan used his software. So where do you go when your market is saturated? Second, government spending, because of the financial problems in Japan, on public work projects had been cut by half. And third, there were many, many small and medium-sized public works companies literally struggling for their survival and going out of business because of the severe economic situation and the budget cuts in Japan. So this is why he said this is important to me, because he realized at that time that for his company to continue to prosper, he had to find something new. And when he saw critical chain, he thought to himself, this is what we need. This is what we need to move the construction industry to the next level. And he was very uniquely positioned as the COO of a software company with a wide reach in the industry to help make that movement occur. There was another dilemma, though, and that was Japan's, the nation's dilemma. They had spiraling costs on their projects. They had very unhappy public on many projects because of poor performance. And in fact, in Japan, late projects cost lives. It's very important to try to get projects finished before the typhoon season comes in. If there is a project, for example, to shore up a riverbank, and the project is not completed by typhoon season and the typhoons come in, there can be great damage to the community, and it actually costs lives. So it's very important to finish projects on time. As you can see, Japan, being a very, very small country, has more than its share of natural disasters. So a few months later, actually the first event that was held by my new company, Affinitus, with Mr. Murakami, we said, let's have an open thinking processes course. And I was very delighted to learn that Mr. Kishira and his chief engineer at Being Corporation and a couple other folks were going to come to our thinking processes course. The course was facilitated, I was there, but the course was facilitated by Elaine Frost. Elaine, put your hand up back there. And so we had a thinking processes course, and I had already met Mr. Kishira, so I thought I would take a special interest in the trees that he was working on. So I really worked very closely with him on his trees. I'm just going to briefly run over these. There's a couple of things that I want to point out. These are just little excerpts from his PRT. There's an injection down here that's very interesting. Be a committee member of government. And he took this injection upon himself to get involved in the government, to be involved in government committees. Publish an article in Nikkei Business Weekly. There's several things. I won't go into all of them, but I do want to say this. I have never seen a PRT executed to the letter perfectly. Every single injection executed, every single intermediate objective reached than Mr. Kishira's PRT. Here we were going to target a customer from his customer base of public works companies. He wanted to find the right company to try CCPM and then publish the results. And once again, I won't go through all of this, but I do want to point out, when you get to the very top level of his PRT, I want to show it to you in a little more detail because it's phenomenal, I think. You don't see too many PRTs that end in something like this. More and more customers adopting CCPM, continuously making profit, and Being, his company, is successful in recovering the construction economy. Isn't that amazing? That is what he really wanted to do. Beyond even making his company more successful, that's in there, but actually recovering the Japanese construction economy. And by the way, folks, he's meeting that objective as well. And so begins the journey. We started out doing critical chain training, Affinitus. This is Roger Morrison from Affinitus here. And we taught Being Corporation everything we knew about critical chain. They had a very good turnout. There were probably about 30 people from the company in that initial critical chain training. I love Japanese students. They show up on time. They're quiet. They never take phone calls. They stay till the end. They take meticulous notes. They have 3 video cameras going on you while you're teaching, and then they watch them over and over again. And they implement exactly what you've taught them. And so they took what they'd learned from that training, critical chain training, and the first thing they did was implement critical chain for their own software development inside Being Corporation, with resulting productivity increases by about 400%. They used to work very long days and weekends, lots of overtime. Afterwards, it was 0 overtime, short days, and everybody's happy. I can literally walk into any office of Being Corporation across Japan, and I find smiling, happy people, seriously. They love working there, it's a wonderful company, and their productivity is through the roof. So, from 2003 until today, 2004 actually, when we had the thinking processes course, Mr. Kishira has been diligently pursuing his PRT, and today Affinitus, Goal System Consulting, Mr. Murakami's company, and being our allies to continually increase the knowledge of TOC in Japan. My company is really just honored to be playing a part. I am watching in awe, of course still collaborating, but watching in awe of what is happening. But there's another thing about what's going on in Japan that we really need to understand in the West. It's another dimension that I think would be very helpful to the rest of us to learn and understand and practice. And that other dimension is something called wa. And this is the kanji character, for wa. I'm going to let Mr. Kishira explain wa to you now. And by the way, you may think this is just a gentleman with a lot of energy. He is also the most remarkable marketer I have ever met. And through his efforts in government and industry, we're creating this revolution in Japan. Yuji?
That's Japanese. Okay, thank you very much. And okay, I would like to touch on a little bit about our win-win-win public works reform. About my TOC story, I joined Kyocera in 1984, and actually, first thing I met, kicked out of Boeing due to longest delivery and highest price of my substrate. David up the globe is so much trouble with ceramic substrate and implemented TOC. And also exposed to too many TOC-based customers worldwide, ATT, Belva, Mentonics, NEC, and Fujitsu, and basically, they're exposing to a cutting-edge TOC implementation technology as a key component supplier because my product have longest lead time, the highest price. So probably I'm the guy who really contribute to TOC societies, motivated to accept TOC, right? And also, basically, many Satoru's customers, the biggest pain was my product. And also, I became the SCM project leader, to fight long lead time to too much inventories. And also, but at that time, we tried to use a software to make a lead time reduction or something like that. But the objective of the project itself is try to use the software. Forget about to cut down the lead time. So actually, I buried the SCM software and started DBR. Maybe after 1 week, 2 weeks, all working process disappeared. I was so surprised. Then I was kind of getting popular in Japan and highlighted many conferences. Then I was headhunted by Being Corporation. And I met David Upgrade now, and a good friend of mine, and told me he's my sensei of TOC. And I was so surprised at how much great results. I'm enjoying it very much. And now we released Being Management CCPM. We call it management. It's kind of important things we believe. Talking about a little bit about our public works, used to be like this way, because we have a geographic problem. We have a shaky earth ground, and also always fires, and also you see the typhoons are always coming. It's a really big issue. And at the same time, there are so many scandals, waste of tax, and also many of scandals are already exploded. So actually, although many people doing good things in the construction industry, but there are some political things ongoing, many scandals that people regard as public works is bad things. But so actually that demotivate construction industry, also like a government official. And looks like we are doing bad things. Instead, can you imagine like people, maybe you work for the company, that watching TV or 10 o'clock news, always your company is in the trouble. Always, you do a huddle, a scandal, something like that. Whole industry is like that way. So that put them in a really difficult position. You exchange a business card, people say, oh, you are in a deep in trouble industry, something like that. So no good situation. And I started also, I used like CRT and thinking process and combined with our very famous why 5 times method. Using 5 why 5 times method to create a CRT. It's because Japanese way is easy to make it happen. And this is like asking why to make a profit. Too much extra work without payment, requires extra fee but no payment. So a different opinion between government official and local residents stop the construction. And timing of the construction too late to finish construction by due date. Why government place the order in winter? Why not spring when weather is much more good for the construction? And what we found, we were educated by a team, but critical change. And our impression was kind of unique because these things, ODSC is a beautiful word of 3 hours, which always cliche we use in shop floor. 3 hours consensus is extremely important. We do a value on the consensus, and making to have a shared goal. So ODSC is kind of, for me, it's a 3 hours. And it has a good ingredient of ODSC. It gives us a unique way to teach how to do that 3 hours rather than learned by experience. Also like backward scheduling, we call it dandori hachibu. In the preparation, 80% of success of the project. Also ABP is utility, means educate people while providing concentrations. And also buffer management, we call sente kandi, take action before too late. So most of the key ingredient of critical change is already short floor based exercise in Japan, but beautifully explained but logically, which is kind of find it very interesting. And first critical change implementation was these people, 3 samurai, young foremen. They never made a profit for 10 years experience. They never made a profit. So they're supposed to be a substandard type of the foreman. Actually, president of that company nominated these 3 people is because of if even them can do that, the excellent job, then they could really, this CCPM did great things to train the people to these 4 utility, sente kandi, also dandori hachibu, those kind of important ingredients of the construction industry. And they started also diligently to show that all kind of public works and also CCPM, and also all, including BAPA, they show to the public. And also, this is the ODSC of typical CCPM public work. This is objective, the reinforce strengths of a river bank, protect local residents' safe and life, also complete by typhoon season August, need at least a 20% reduction, get trust from local residents and government officials. These are kind of things they actually by creating this ODSC, I see the clearly sign that they get really motivated because they feel like they do good things for the public people. And the result was 30% reduction of the project duration, and 3 months early cash flow, and also sharing know-how with young farmers, and also farmer participation in the management, and collaboration acceleration with a subcontractor. But I received a letter. Somebody read Japanese? No? Okay. And best, actually, that's surprising. They make lots of money, unbelievably huge amount of money with just one of the one construction, like unbelievable. But their comment is, money is nothing. Best outcome of the Tonne-based river project is that Endo, that guy, one of the 3 samurai, it became one of the best performer, which is aided by being managed with CCPM. We can expect more profit from Endo project now and the future. This is far more important for the single project success. That is become Endo has overcome a barrier. It's really amazing. That was a comment. I was so impressed. And they start with a multi-project environment. Then we found it's very interesting. This red and also yellow and green sign, and they start to help each other without asking, automatically. I don't know, but each project manager start to care other project and offering people and help each other. And also, they start to show the public our like a CCPM network and showing this buffer penetration and to the government official. Sometimes the government official delay their decision. So actually, it's actually intimidate like government official. Is it because late because of me? Then showing buffer, we found showing buffer is a source of teamwork. They feel like they have responsibilities to keep on time. So that's the big change I found. It's, oh, this is wa, which is harmony, and in Japan society. And because of a successful example of Japan, fast construction, government want to do the same thing in the current reality tree. And the example is, this is the current reality tree of government officials, slow finalization spec, also information does not transfer to the contractor of timely manner, and also a resource shortage of excess resource, sudden work required, and cost increase. So actually synchronization is daimondai, means daimondai is a big problem. No problem is mondai nai. Sounds like Monday night. So you can remember Japanese word. Then government official decided 1 day response project. Within 24 hours, they actually obligated themselves to decide within 24 hours, give a response by all means. This was a future reality tree, which we created with the government officials. Implement 1 day response project and public works. Sorry, it's very small, but public works finish area. Then realize the economic effect area. Then make taxpayer happy. And also implement 1 day response project. Then contractor makes profit. Then contractor are happy. Because of profit, tax will be like income is increased. Also because they are forced to, government official side, they are forced to respond to 24 hours. They consult a senior guide how to respond, how to quickly. So that really, government supervisors, experienced guys share their experience with their junior guy. So that really helped train themselves. So then taxpayer is happy and they feel like they grow. So it makes them more happy. And so finally, we found out the public work will provide good quality infrastructure while supporting government financial difficulty turnaround. So this is actually a taxpayer win, also corporate win, also a government side win. So win-win-win public work transformation will be forecasted at that time. And result is, sorry, this is Japanese, but the duration is 20% reduced and profit is 7% up in the average quality of point at 80%, 80s, where general is 73. It's unbelievable. And what we found is if contractors is doing a CCPM, we see the big result. And the level of CCPM is higher, and profit is higher. So this is actually government official report anyway. And we found is actually construction is not starting. We need hidden safety, the contractor side, but showing safety create a mutual trust. A public office learn by experience by their own, but quick response educate people quickly. And bureaucracy is always slow, but quick action create trust. So win-win-win. And everywhere in Japan right now doing last year we have experimental studies that shown that kind of result. So finally they made a report about one-day response and TOC, critical chain, make a trust, and return to the origin of a public works toward the good of the taxpayers and residents. And the sharing buffer is really source of teamwork. It's great wow. Then this is the final conclusion, which we created a report with our government official, Japan Ministry of Construction. And this is controlled communication, complex, easy, headquarter control project, and also job description, and manual rule, and a complex report, then like a superficial report. That used to be the either way. Now, like a make profit with teamwork is this what will happen. So this is the command and control formula. Do it, then force to do it, and distrust, and make management people by developing manual people because of manual is there. Here, you have a communication, collaboration, trust, and commitment, and fulfillment, management by developing human resource. Toyota is always talking about we are not manufacturing a car, we are creating a people. That's kind of things that we discover a beauty of Japanese management. And on this year of May 8th, we had a win-win public work conference. There is a declaration. We strongly remind ourselves the very important responsibility in public works in the secure people safety and natural land safety to realize maximum benefit for society. Both government official and contractor must work together by providing better product and increase speed. And this brings a benefit to all residents, to government and to contractors, and contribute to overcoming financial difficulty of Japanese government. We declare here we strongly advance win-win-win public work reform. There was actually highlighted all newspapers in Japan. And this is a very level 5 implementation right now. Anything is slowed down is actually red sign is exceed 1 day, 24 days. And this is actually government high-level ranking official can see that situation. And this is analysis of what is a category which is maximum impact of the slow down the decision making. Based on this, we do this kind of analysis to make a PDCA cycle for the construction management. Right now, 800 sites everywhere in Japan is now ongoing that kind of test. So spirit of war. In Japan, in the first constitution or charter of Japan is 604. It shows the first charter, it shows the respect, harmony. It's war. And win-win-win is our OMI business principle, which is a successful business principle, good for the customer, us and the public. Because of that, I was so successful. My book is #1 in Amazon right now. We are going to publish a book in English, currently the Jungle Store. And only the beginning, win-win public reform symbol is actually now everywhere in Japan. My wife, Maiko, is made this kind of pictures, and this print is actually on the wall of also like a big heavy equipment it put on this kind of picture so that this is good for the residents, this is good for the construction company, this is good for the government official. And this is, I think, just the beginning to make our world better a little bit by TOC. Thank you. And Dave, I'd like to return this.
Give me 1 minute to sum up here. Okay. Okay. So just to summarize, we had to blast through this stuff, but we're really talking about harmony, why equals harmony, and creating an atmosphere of collaboration and cooperation as opposed to command and control. And that's what's happening. And literally, the nation of Japan is embracing this idea. And you saw that they were showing the little picture everywhere in Japan now. And literally, the Japanese construction industry and the Japanese government in those TOC and CCPM is becoming the standard, recognized by government, recognized by that conference in May, where government officials, industry officials got together and said, we like this win-win-win thing. So what can we do in the West? Well, you know, in the West, TOC and WA are compatible. Absolutely. This is why the Japanese like TOC so much, because it is compatible with harmony. Does this look familiar to anybody? Does this look like a win-win-win? So in the micro, WA is compatible with TOC. And in the macro as well. We're trying to move this into the North American public works industry because we want to create in North America a win-win-win between government, industry, and the citizens of our countries here. Okay? So thank you very much.